I think that when it comes to Macron's tour of the Gulf, in which he will visit the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, I think it's important to put this tour into context, in that the details in and of themselves are not important, whether it's Macron trying to push through arms sales with the UAE or take advantage of the increasingly international rehabilitation of Riyadh, or even Qatar trying to scramble to rescue some of its influence that it's lost to the UAE in Europe and in Washington. I think it's more important to look at this tour through Macron's perspective, in that Macron has passed legislation cracking down on the rights of French Muslims in France, that Macron has restricted the wearing of the hijab, that Macron has closed down a number of Muslim charities, that Macron has forced imams and mosques to sign up to a charter declaring loyalty to the state, that Macron has stoked anti-Islam sentiment with provocative and inflammatory rhetoric, that Macron has defended the Charlie Hebdo cartoons that insulted the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a prophet that is revered by more than 1.8 billion people around the world, that Macron has stoked anti-Islam sentiment and Islamophobia across the EU. Macron believes that despite all of this, despite his assertion and stubbornness that he is justified in these policies, he's still welcomed with pomp and applause in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar, that Macron believes that these policies have not impacted his relations with Muslim countries, that France is considered far too important for these Muslim countries to isolate France or punish France or put pressure on France. And moreover, Macron believes that this tour is a sign that he can still continue to rely on these Gulf states to help him defend these policies. You'll remember that the UAE said that France has a right to essentially protect its national security, suggested Macron was justified in his policies, and Qatar even afforded Al Jazeera as a platform for Macron to explain himself, and rather than apologize to the Muslim world, Macron used the platform to dig his heels in, to stubbornly assert that he was in the right, and the Al Jazeera presenter did not even press Macron with regards to his use of inflammatory rhetoric, suggesting Qatar was using the crisis as a means to try to win more influence in Paris, as opposed to trying to punish Paris for its clearly repressive and provocative and Islamophobic policies. And that's the tragedy of this tour, in that it's not a visit between equals, it's not a visit of an equal President Macron with the equal leaders of the region, but rather those countries that claim to be powers in the region find themselves unable to put their foot down and protect at least their brethren, whether it's the French Muslims in France or indeed the sentiments of the Muslim world, as they believe that their interest with France trumps the need to at least rein in Macron, and Macron is unlikely to find any pushback from Emir Tamim or Mohammed bin Salman or Mohammed bin Zayed with regards to his xenophobic policies. And that's the tragedy of this tour, in that it appears far more similar to a colonial power visiting the region than a visit of equal nations coming together to pursue common interests.